to the Future is Freelance podcast for solopreneurs, digital nomads, slowmads, consultants, remote workers, e-residents, and people living a life without traditional boundaries. We're here for everyone who defies categorization and makes a living and a life their own way. Every other Freelance Friday, we're serving up an audio cocktail of expert tips, inspired insights, and stories from the frontiers of freelancing to help you achieve success with your borderless business, whatever success means to you as you live life on your own terms. Thanks for listening to The Future is Freelance and for being part of the Future of Work revolution. Have you ever wondered about making a podcast about podcasting? Would it be like Googling Google, or would it be some kind of matter meets antimatter explosion? Well, it was hardly explosive when I met Steph Fuccio to talk about all the joys and benefits of podcasting as a solopreneur. And I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did, because we really look into the role of audio and even video content in every freelancer and solo operator's possible content strategy. There really is no more powerful way of speaking directly to your customers. That's what I'm doing right now. And nobody illustrates this better than Steph. So enjoy this conversation. And who knows, maybe I'll be listening to your podcast next. Steph, hello and welcome to The Future is Freelance. It's brilliant to have you with us.
Maya, I'm so excited to be here. I have quoted you a gazillion times since I found your podcast a few months ago. So
well, I'm so grateful. You know, it's so lovely. I really appreciate you doing that. And as a fellow podcaster, you know just how much that means when somebody recognizes what you're doing and calls it out publicly. So I really appreciate that. And I want people to know about what you do as well. So before we talk about podcasting, which is our favorite subject mutually, I'm sure, tell us a little bit more about Steph and how you ended up with the unique business offering that you presently have.
Mostly by accident and then intentionally is my answer to pretty much everything that has to do with podcasting. I was an independent podcaster for about 3 years, and then just before just as the pandemic was hitting, and everybody was deciding they wanted a podcast to fill that kind of connection area in their business that they couldn't do in person. A few people who had followed my podcast or knew I did podcasting reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you help me with mine?" I'm like, yeah, I can. So I accidentally started to do editing for them. And that kind of grew into doing not just the editing, but some kind of bespoke organic outreach for clients, some show notes, pretty much whatever a client needed that I had done, experimented with myself, I was willing to offer to do for them because I love experiments. So I've been doing that for about 3 years now, and it's growing and changing, and there's a lot of stuff that I've done recently, and I've ironically narrowed down to the solopreneur space recently, and it feels so comfy. These are my people. These are our people.
Yeah. Fantastic. No, it's a lovely group of people. It's a lovely audience to be working with. Yeah. And I guess that solopreneurs have a particular need or range of needs that maybe the corporate clients don't have. But I wonder we all talk as solopreneurs and freelancers about our content marketing strategy and our body of work that we put out there. But I don't know if people always think of podcasting in that context. I mean, do we, should we? Who isn't podcasting that it ought to be?
Oh, yeah. I'm honestly, anybody who has a marketing plan that's not working for them, anybody who has a marketing plan that is working, but they want to do something different. So pretty much I would say anybody. I mean, it probably depends on the business to some degree. But when you're talking about solopreneurs who are really looking for that kind of, not just someone who needs your service, but somebody who's a good personality fit, a good energetic fit, then I think when you look at podcasting and the voice, even when it's video podcasting, it's still voice driven, and our personalities are in our voices, our energy, our how we are as a person is in our voice. And so there's a beautiful intimacy that happens that people have been writing about for years in podcasting. And that really serves the solopreneur well, because when you use a podcast for your marketing, or as part of, more likely as part of your marketing for your solopreneur venture, what you're doing is you're changing your discovery calls from will I work with you to how will I work with you? Because it just gets you there to that connection point quicker.
That's so interesting. And you're absolutely right. I went to an event last month in a country I'd never been to before and met people who said, I know you.
Yeah. Right?
I know your voice, and, you've come to life in front of me. But it's weird that it's so unidirectional, because I didn't know them. I mean, it was great getting to know them, but it did make me aware of this kind of hyper intimacy that you have, whispering into people's ears once a week or once a fortnight that we might not always be aware of. And as freelancers, as solopreneurs, we are our brand.
Yes.
So it makes complete sense that we should bring it to life in that way. And I don't know if there's something about the sweet spot of audio, that video is great, but it can almost be a bit performative. That I know that I'm definitely less comfortable doing video than audio only, so that if I am speaking in a webinar or a training course or something like that, then it's not as me quite so much.
Well, that depends on the person. Some people are definitely like that. And there is more pressure to not look weird or be weird on video. And we do weird things when we speak. And I know this because I've been editing my audio for years, and I would go back and do quality control and try to take stuff out, and I'd be like, I never knew I made that face. I never knew I tilted my head. What am I doing exactly in this part? But I'm saying something that I can't take out, and this is awful. But honestly, I don't think people judge us nearly as much as we judge ourselves, but it is something to seriously get used to. And for some people, you don't need to. You can just do audio if you feel comfortable with that.
Yes, I've definitely had guests who didn't want to do video at all, even for just capturing some social. That's absolutely fine. I do think hopefully that's maybe one positive legacy of the pandemic years, that we've all gotten over ourselves on webcam to a much greater extent now, after all those Zooms that people had to have for the first time. I've hopefully, we've got better at not looking at ourselves or not getting so hung up on how weird we look, especially when we're flipped. Oh, we're not flipped. We're used to seeing ourselves in a mirror image, and then we see ourselves on the screen, and it's odd. But talking, hopefully, is something we can all do. And the barrier to entry is so low. I mean, obviously, people can hire somebody like you to make it sound polished and perfect, but you don't even have to start there, do you? You can literally pick up a free app and a cheap mic and just get going. So if we can persuade freelancers that this should be part of their matrix of content creation, then what's the end goal here? Because you can monetize a podcast and get sponsors and make loads of money off it. But do you think for most freelancers that's realistic, or should they be thinking more about the branding?
I'd say it's more about the branding and about bringing in the right clients, and about making the right connections with other people doing the same thing. I think those are the most, not just lucrative financially, although that is nice as a freelancer with the ebb and flow of all of that. But it's making those longer term connections and in that more intimate way that we're talking about, which is way more impactful than anything you can do. I mean, you can try to monetize and get ads on there, get affiliate links, do your Amazon affiliates and all of that stuff. You can do all affiliate stuff and different kinds of monetization things. But honestly, the most powerful thing you can do is sell yourself, your services, your products. If you have any passive income products, that's super powerful to put in your own podcasts.
Yeah, so that's a third route then, apart from simply building your authority, is if you offer productized services or even simply marketing yourself by the hour for the services that you can offer. Podcasting, such a powerful way of building that reputation, that expertise, and going really deep. I mean, I really love the conversations that we have in podcasting where the intersection of your audience and what they're interested in and what that person's bringing is something so narrow that you plumb these fascinating depths. And I mean, I think a question that a lot of people might have for you, Steph, is about the kind of technology and what you need to get started. Do you have to master lots of software? Is it difficult? Is it within the scope of the average freelancer?
Oh, massively within. Because to be quite honest, and I'm sure some people would roll their eyes at me for saying this, but if you really only had your cell phone, you could, with some training, a little bit of training or practice, you could actually get some really good sounding stuff out of most cell phones these days, especially if you have an iPhone, but you can even I use Android sometimes just to do like mini episodes or announcements that I put in my pre-roll or things like that. But you can definitely, again, with a little tip or trick here and there. Oh, can I tell you one trick right now that's really cool?
Oh, please, yes.
Okay. I learned this from Lee of the Asian American Podcast Association. If you, like, here's my cell phone here. I'm just holding it in front of my face. Like the mic, the mic is just like right here. If you just put a tiny rag over, not a tissue because that'll make noise, but like a soft cloth over the microphone and then hold it to your mouth, it'll take care of the popping P's. So you won't have the
okay. So you make a pop filter out of a...
Exactly. You can do a pop filter on your phone. So you can do that if you need to. But to be quite honest, like the Samsung Q2, like I'm using right now, I don't know what it is now because it was like $40 when I bought it 5 years ago, I think. I think it's closer to $70-ish, whatever that translates to in other currencies. And it is a very good mic that you can use in untreated places. And it will pick up your voice. It focuses on your voice, not the other sounds that are in the room. I've had construction outside and people can't hear it because it mostly picks up my voice. Yeah. So it's a really good mic. So you don't need a lot of technology to start. You do need a lot of time and you need a lot of patience. And I think you know that, Maya.
Yes. Now I'm doing it all myself again. I've had to learn how long it would take, even with your beautiful clean audio, it will take me time to edit this episode.
Of course.
And yeah, it's good to know that you do feel that you can get good results just with a phone though, because I would like to do more event-based interviews and snippets and recordings. So that's a really worthwhile tip. And a good mic for, what did you say, about $40 or $50? It's about the same in euros now, I think. Heaven help us.
I know. Yeah.
You can certainly do an awful lot with that. I used to have a Blue Yeti, but it broke. And then I got this thing, which was probably half the price. And I do think it sounds a lot better than the Yeti used to pick up everything in the whole neighborhood.
That's the thing, is that Blue Yetis are condenser microphones and they pick up everything equally. And like the Samsung Q2 that I mentioned is a dynamic microphone and it picks up what's closest to it, which if you're in an untreated room is perfect because you want it to pick up you, not all the other sounds.
Yes, indeed.
So look for a dynamic
Fiestas
microphone
here at the moment, and we're prone to have brass bands or fireworks going off. Even in my quiet spot in the suburbs, it's all people are very excited about. I think it's the first Fiestas with no distancing or restriction that they've had for several years. So it's all a little bit crazy out there at any time, usually when I reach for a record button.
Oh my gosh. I have friends who leave Valencia during this festival because they're like, I can't get any work done at all.
Oh yeah, if you're in the center, no question. Yeah. Usually it should be quieter out here, but you just have to go with the flow, don't you? This is part of the joy of podcasting and freelancing and living in a more location independent way as you absorb those things going on around you. And the podcasting carries on.
It does.
We simply record and it all happens in the context of that wider picture. And obviously podcasting is changing, even though it's been around for a long time. How long's podcasting been around?
I think a little over 15 years, I think.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That probably tracks, actually, because I can remember listening to podcasts years ago, training for a long walking event and listening to sort of really early podcasts like Ricky Gervais and people like that when it was on my iPod.
Exactly. I remember dragging and dropping the files and then like getting ready to take it outside and walk around and listen to people. And I was like, this is so exciting. If you've got enough
space and you have to wipe the old ones off.
Yeah. Like such effort, but it was worth it.
Definitely. And we had no idea what a trend was setting. But what's happening now in podcasting? What would you say are the biggest trends or news or things to be excited about? Gosh.
Well, there's a lot of different parts to podcasting, right? There's the big networks, there's the independent hobbyist, and then there's the business folks, which sometimes could be the networks, but sometimes are more like the solopreneurs. So it's it's solidifying in its camps. I guess you could say camps or tribes. And so within each one of those spaces, different things are happening. In the networks, there was a big boom with advertisements, and now there's a big bust, and there's lots of layoffs and all that, and that's what everybody's reporting on. But that doesn't really affect the smaller hobbyist or solopreneur podcaster so much, because we don't have those big $1 million deals and things. So we're more like looking at YouTube, and we're, playing with like, what's it called? 3D audio. And like we're experimenting with content and with format and with sound and doing those kinds of things. So it really depends on which side of the podcasting space and what people want to be doing with it. Yeah.
Oh, we're definitely on the nimble solopreneur side that we can respond to this stuff. And, this is something that we've talked about a lot on this show, particularly in the light of the big geopolitical factors and economic factors and things, that actually it's a huge advantage to be small and to be able to pivot, to be able to embrace new things and shift the way you do things, often in a quite experimental way, just to see what works for you and see what's bringing you the results you want. I've heard a lot about YouTube and podcasting recently, and I know you've been encouraging me to do video and do more. Instead of just hiding behind the mic. But what's important about YouTube? I mean, what sort of difference is this going to make, do you think?
I hesitate to say anything because it's changing literally daily now. Like the latest news is that they're going to, it hasn't happened yet, but they're, as of last week, beginning of March, they've announced that they're going to offer to put podcasts on YouTube Music via RSS feed. But it's not happening. Nobody knows how to do it. It doesn't exist. It's not, we can't listen to it yet, but they say that that's going to happen. Okay. But in general, when I'm enthusiastic about YouTube, I'm talking about YouTube, the place we all go to for the other things, not YouTube Music.
Not music, YouTube, but YouTube.
Yeah. And which is the second biggest search engine in the world. And people have been posting podcasts, both static and motion, on there for years. And people in offices, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, during the pandemic, have been listening to podcasts on YouTube for years. A lot of people don't watch the videos that are on there, no matter what the video is. And then there's weirdos like me that actually go, I want to look and see what the host is, what their facial expression is. And I'll go over to the YouTube channel and go to that point and go, oh, okay, I guess I'll watch the rest of the video now. So there's a lot of discoverability over on YouTube. And there's also this thing called feedback. You have comments right there next to the video, which is just so non-existent in podcasting.
True. You spend all this time begging people to leave you a review. So can you go and find the app where you listen to the thing? And then if you click it, you might be able to see a link somewhere. And I might one day be able to find that if I look in the right country. Okay.
It's tricky. It's tricky. So yes, there's a few different things that are, and their analytics are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, well, it's part of Google, so they've got access to. You have to log in to go onto YouTube, so they've got your information, so they can share that, which may be good or bad. But for us, it gives us a lot of healthy information about who's watching, what else they're watching. It's kind of beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So that's definitely exciting, because at the moment the analytics we get through our hosting companies are kind of. It's what they get, isn't it? Which isn't a great deal. So do you think, I mean, for those of us who are less on the technical side, that we're going to see offered in Buzzsprout, for example, a button that says, make this go on YouTube?
That's been happening in some podcast hosts for years already.
Okay. Not mine.
I don't know if it does on Buzzsprout, because I do host there too, because I started a YouTube channel and podcast at the same time. Yeah. So I'm used to uploading mine manually. So I just kept doing that. But they might have that. I know Libsyn has it. I think Captivate has it. Like a few of the big players do have that already.
I just need to dig in and see what's already there. But would that be to post a static image?
Yeah.
Whereas you upload the actual video of your, so that would be my whole weird face and everything.
Well, I didn't really think about it too much, because I have both, depending on what the guest is comfortable with, and so on. And sometimes, like for my older episodes, I have a lot more static videos because I didn't save the videos. But you can do more than just the static image and the motion. You can do like automation. You can do different pictures. Like there's a lot of in-between stuff you can do, which doesn't have faces, which can be more engaging if people are watching your video. So there's a lot more. And there's pages of those options and examples you can click on in the Podcasting on YouTube guide, which is dense, but informative.
Okay, is that the thing that's 80 pages long?
67 pages, 67? Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. I did do a webinar on it that is now a paid course that I'd be more than happy to give you the link to. I do like the 10 most valuable things for solopreneurs that simplifies it to a degree, has an index of key terms and all things to try to make it more manageable. Because as much as the information is amazing, it is not organized very well, if I'm completely honest.
For a company that's supposed to be the ultimate at indexing everything, that's a little disappointing, I guess.
Well, but it's all there. I mean, I can see where they're going with it. There's so much information to put in there. I don't blame them at all. I'm glad.
Thank goodness we have you to distill it for us. Because we're freelancers, right? You know, we're not Joe Rogan. We haven't got teams of people to sit and tease all this out and do all the things for us. We have to prioritize.
Yes.
And you already said you upload the video and with the faces and with a static thing. Do you upload them both at the same time or on the same channel, or how does that work?
Well, wait, what? I have different videos depending on what is happening and what the guest is comfortable with. So sometimes I'll have emotion, like what we're doing here with us talking and doing that. And sometimes if the guest doesn't want to be on there at all, we'll just shut the cameras down and I'll put a static image in there. Sometimes when I get really playful, because I am learning more and more and more about video editing, is I'll go from like faces to like I'll put a picture of what we're talking about, like a static image of that thing we're talking about, and do that kind of thing. So it just depends. But that takes a lot more time.
Of course. There's so many things now. And there's some interesting AI apps coming out that pick out your highlights and transcribe and overlay and do all sorts of sexy things. And even though it's automated, it still takes a lot of time because you've got to check that they've transcribed accurately and that you know how to use the app.
I want them to get better, because I want to use them. I hate making shorter video clips, but I experimented with a new one last week, and it did my call to action in a video, and I'm like, oh no, that's not a clip I really want to put on social media. I don't want the call to action without any context.
Just gimme.
I'm like, no, that's not value. That's like you said, gimme. And I'm like, nah, wait.
Yeah. Okay. So it's good to see this going in that direction, but yes, there's still room for improvement there. And I mean, we have to be in podcasting for the long haul, don't we? We know that this is not something that you build an audience or you build a brand with overnight. And that was something I wanted to ask you about, actually, particularly from the solopreneur perspective. What motivation can you give people to keep going with this? When you put your episode out there week after week and you don't see your downloads going up and you're not getting any reviews and you're wondering, is it worth carrying on? You know what?
Well, those things don't really matter to solopreneurs. What matters are the connections. Again, connections to peers and connections to potential clients. And those, I mean, if you're sharing your episodes if you're sharing the value that's in the episodes in spaces where people will start to listen to it, those connections will come pretty quickly, because like attracts like, and people that need the things that you're talking about will start to listen and they'll start to reach out to you, whether it be to be your client or just to say that was amazing, or they'll recommend you to someone else. Those connections come pretty quick. I don't want to say quick in the normal sense. I want to say within the first 6 months, probably. Those, assuming that you're promoting it or sharing the value in it, those will come pretty quickly. And once that starts happening, for me, the connections fed everything else. Like I was motivated to share my story, and then I kind of then I started making the connections, and the connections kept me going. Like I ran out of story. I was like, right. I'm done sharing, but now I can share your stuff too. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah. And we bring different people into the story, and they bring new layers to it, new aspects, and so on. So yeah, I completely agree with that. And for somebody who's maybe new to this, they might be wondering, we talked about the time it takes to edit and do a nice job, but what sort of time investment do you think you need to be spending on the sharing and the promoting and the engaging as well? Yeah. Because you read somewhere, some places will say, if you're new, just make episodes, just, don't worry too much about promoting until you've got loads of episodes to refer people to. But then if you've got all this content and it's going stale and nobody knows about it, how do you overcome that? And what do you think the balance should be?
There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Like last November, I did on my newest podcast, Solopreneur Podcasting Tips, I did 30 episodes in 30 days for National Podcast Post Month. And that was a really fun way to get started on that podcast. And I got so many ideas on where it would go during those 30 days that I'm still digging into, because you can't activate any of them during that rapid turnaround. And some people do 7-day challenges. Some people like to have 10 episodes out before they do a lot of promotions. It really depends on your podcast why, and what you're comfortable with. What I would encourage people to do is don't record 10 and then get rid of 8 because you don't like how they sound, because no matter where you start, the beginning ones will always be worse. You'll always get better. So just
never listen to them again.
Post. And if anything, go back like a few months or a year into your podcast and encourage people to listen and go, look at this. Look at how much better I've gotten at all of this. Sorry, I've diverted. So time, how much you should promote. I heard people say when I first started podcasting that you spent 20% creatively, 80% marketing. And I thought, no, that's crazy. And now I get it. They're right. It's so frustrating. Yeah. Okay. Because it doesn't matter how good your content is or how good it sounds if it doesn't actually get in front of people. They have to be exposed to it for it to take off, for the word of mouth to start going, and for people to start going, that's amazing. I want more of that. So I would say at least half when you're starting, half your time creating, half your time promoting. I would say sharing, not promoting.
Yes, let's be a bit more mutual and reciprocal in intent. But that's a lot of time.
It is.
Given how long it takes me to edit, what should we be doing with that 50% or 80% to really maximize the value?
Well, it doesn't have to be drudgery. I'm not talking about making audiograms for hours on end. I'm talking about like sharing the gems that are in it, whether it be quotes or thoughts on making it or thoughts afterwards on what you learned from that episode. It can be just like a really quick video again on your phone of like reflecting on the biggest takeaways from the episode and then linking over to it. It can be like swaps with other podcasters that are doing similar shows. You could do feed swaps where you share each other's episodes. You could do promo swaps where you share your trailers with each other on your different episodes. You could do a lot of things that are very community connective-y that are much more fun than just sitting down and making assets and getting those out on the socials in an impersonal way. So you don't have to do the boring stuff. You can make the promotional or the sharing stuff fun and community driven.
Okay, that's really, really helpful actually, because you've given me some ideas that I didn't already have. So I'm extremely
if you want to have some
grateful
fun,
for that.
Lauren Passell in her, I always get the name wrong, I think it's Podcasting Magic newsletter. If you Google Lauren Passell 100 marketing tips, she literally has this one issue of her newsletter that's 100 marketing tips for podcasters. Wow. And they're all incredibly quick, practical tips.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
So that should keep you going
for a while.
For a little while. Obviously out of 100, they're not all going to land, but you're going to come across a few in there that you just think, wow, yes, that's a total
absolutely
fit for me. I'm going to do that.
And when you find something that works, do it again in like a month or two. Repeat the things that work, because that's what's hitting a chord with people.
It's consistency again, isn't it? Like getting it out at the same time every Friday or whatever, that you just need to people know what to expect from you, and that feeds through to your brand values as a freelancer, hopefully that you're consistent and reliable, and you're a safe pair of hands and not full of surprises, even though you're a creative genius. So
I love that. A safe pair of hands. I love that.
Well, that's what we all want from the people that we hire, don't we? Now, I'd like to know a little bit more about the people that hire you, Steph, because as well as inspiring people like me to make a success of their podcast, I know you do a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff as well, and you can help people with editing and things like that. So please tell listeners, if they've listened this far, nearly half an hour, and they're thinking, maybe it's time I did my podcast. What can you do for them?
Oh gosh. Well, I like to take a holistic approach. I like to offer to grow their podcast by making it better, stronger, sound better, content tighter, constantly throwing them ideas on how they can organically promote and connect with others. Like I said, in a very community sharing, podcast growing way. So I do some like producer feedback on the episodes that I edit for them. I do the content and audio editing. I do the show notes, titles, that kind of thing, put it up on YouTube, obviously. And then when I see opportunities that connect to their podcast, I also include that. It's a very bespoke service because I'm obsessed with podcast newsletters. So when I see something that connects to my client, I'm emailing it to them. I'm like, this is something you need to do now. How do you grow? Here you go.
So it's not just editing in a box and here's your MP3. It's a whole service of really identifying your strengths and niche down on that audience as solopreneurs. So
yeah, because business people, fantastic. Like you said, they don't have a lot of time to do, to keep up with all of that. But I'm doing it already. So
fantastic. Yeah, because even just staying up with all of the changes coming from YouTube and everywhere else is a full-time job. And I think also remembering to market what we do, to as much as we love making content, try and make something actionable out of it.
Yes.
And I wanted to wrap up with the fact that I know you're brilliant at this end bit, which I often love. I love making podcasts, and I get to the end and I thank the guest and I say goodbye and see you in 2 weeks' time. And you put something in a newsletter recently about very explicit calls to action and telling people what you want them to do when they finish listening to your podcast. So for anybody who's still with us after half an hour, Steph, take it away. What should they do next?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So they should screenshot, because they're probably listening to this from their phone. They should screenshot this episode and put it on the socials and encourage the people following you to follow Maya's podcast.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's just one simple thing you can literally do with a click right now.
Yeah. Super easy. You don't even have to put a link to the episode. People that listen to podcasts know how to take the name and input it in and search. They're good.
They'll find us. They'll find me because I'm the only one with my name. So
exactly. There you go.
I'll show up. Well, if you do nothing else, nobody's asking you to read or rate or do anything complicated. Just a click for a screenshot. You can do that on your phone. Even my dad can do that on his phone. I showed him.
It's so easy. And everybody can do it. You don't have to be on an Apple or an Android. Everybody can do it.
Brilliant. Well, on that note, Steph, we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to put all your links in as those nice background call to actions. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've shared with us on The Future is Freelance.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Maya. I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Future is Freelance podcast. We appreciate your time and attention in a busy world and your busy life. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a fellow freelancer and help us grow this movement of independent entrepreneurs. If you rate and review The Future is Freelance in whatever app you're listening in right now, it helps spread the word and helps us reach more people who need to hear this message. Together, we can change the world and make sure the future is freelance. This is Maya Middlemiss wishing you happiness and success until our next episode.